And now at the age of 78, he writes, like his last book. It's Pete Rose, Play Hungry, The Making of a Baseball Player. Bern, many years ago, when I got thrown out of New York and was working in Miami, I used to live in Boca Raton, and I used to live on Boca Rio Road. And about 100 yards from my actual condominium complex was Pete Rose's Ballpark Restaurant.
Really?
Really. And I used to see Pete there all the time. He was great to me. I did many a radio show. He had a studio inside his restaurant in Boca. And me and Hank Goldberg and Carl Foster, we would do our radio shows from Pete's restaurant. In fact, Tyson had just gotten out of jail, Mike Tyson, and Pete Rose, his place, charged the cheapest, only $20, to come watch Tyson's fights at his restaurant.
Sweet.
I'd watch college basketball with Pete. Anyway, I got to know Pete very well, along with Hank, down in Miami. And here he is today. A real honor to have him, the all-time hit king, Pete Rose. Pete, it's Sid and Bernie. Welcome to New York. How are you, pal?
You know, talking about that restaurant, we were the only restaurant in town that had all the fights.
Yeah, and, I know. I used to go watch.
Until Don King got aware of it.
That's right.
And then what happened is Don King would come the night of a fight and sit at the front door, and he would take the money of everybody that came in, and all I got was the money they spent on food and drinks.
Oh, wow. Well, it made sense, Pete, because Don King lived in Boca. His office was right off Palmetto Park Road. But I remember Tyson gets out of prison. He's fighting Bruce Seldon. Yep. He's fighting Peter McNeely. I went to watch the fights with you.
Yeah, there was it was fun because it was a 16,000 square foot restaurant. It was great for kids because we had 65 video games. We had 66 TVs. We were right down the street, as you know, from Wilt Chamberlain's.
Yep.
He was the first one on the other side of Glades Road.
Yep.
And it was fun for me because, like you said, from 6 to 8, Monday through Friday, I did my sports talk show right from the middle of the restaurant. We had a beautiful studio built right in the middle where people could watch the interviews and listen to the interviews through the intercom. So it was a pretty good setup.
It was gorgeous. And, I did the NFL draft with Hank Goldberg there, Pete, you remember, and all that stuff. And, by the way,
Hank Goldberg.
He's one of the greats. I know. I love Hank. By the way, both those places out of business.
Anytime you need a horse, call Hank.
That's true. Hey, but listen, let's get to the book. It's a magnificent read. I read it literally in an hour. And Pete, you got to understand, when I was a kid growing up in Brooklyn, my dad, Harvey, and Bernie knows how close, and Bernie's close with his dad too, but my dad was my Little League baseball coach, my Little League football coach, and I was a pretty good athlete as a young kid. So when I read your book, you really paid homage to your father, how much you loved him, how close you guys were. For any kid who has that type of relationship with their dad, it's a beautiful read.
Well, you got to remember, I grew up in the 40s and 50s, and we didn't have iPhones, we didn't have iPads, we didn't have computers. We had sports. And I was ahead of the game simply because my father was a great athlete, probably the best football player ever to come out of Cincinnati. And I was the water boy on the football team, ball boy on the basketball team, and bat boy on the baseball team. So I was always going to a sporting event to watch my dad, and my dad was really good, and he was really fundamentally sound, and he was very punctual. He was very aggressive, and those are all the things that I had when I played. So I look at me as a Pete Rose in the next generation with a bigger, better opportunity. And my dad was a great athlete, and he raised me to be an athlete. We never went on vacations. When I was 9 years old, he told the coach, I want my boy to be a switch batter. And he will never miss a practice or never miss a game. But if there's a left-hander pitching, I want him batting right-handed. If there's a right-hander pitching, I want him batting left-handed. And that was the pack he made because, you have a lot of teams today that they'll get ready to play a championship game, and the star player's going on vacation for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Right.
That wasn't going to happen with my dad and my team that I played on.
Old school. I love it. Pete Rose. Of course, the book is Play Hungry, The Making of a Baseball Player. And Pete's going to be signing books today in Manhattan at Barnes & Noble on 555 Fifth Avenue at 1 o'clock, folks. 1 o'clock today in Manhattan. And tonight in Northvale, New Jersey at Books and Greetings, 6 o'clock. Tonight, Books and Greetings, 271 Livingston Street, 6 o'clock. Now, Pete, as you just alluded to, a lot of this book is about your dad. Most of it is.
Yeah.
And your rookie year, when you replaced the Don Blassingame with the Reds in '63, right, you met Vada Pinson and Frank Robinson. And Frank Robinson really served as another father figure to you in that year.
Well, Frank Robinson, we just lost Frank last month, I believe. And Frank was, as you know, a really, really aggressive player. And to watch him play on a daily basis, and I hit in front of him, actually, it learned me a lot of lessons. It taught me a lot of lessons. And I played with Frank 63, 4, and 5, and all of a sudden we traded Frank to Baltimore because he was an old 30, and they went over there and won the Triple Crown. So
yeah, no, the old 30. And I did hear you tell the story that you thought that maybe part of the reason why they traded Frank was because this was not really publicized, but the police pulled him over in Cincinnati. Yeah. He had a gun in his car, and maybe the Reds management didn't want to and couldn't deal with that.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I mean, it was in his glove compartment. Frank wasn't that type of guy that's going to pull a gun on somebody or anything. I don't know if it's for protection or what it was, but I don't think the Reds really liked that at that time, and I don't know why they needed a reason to trade Frank Robinson. I mean, the guy was such a run producer and such a good player on the field, and set an example in the clubhouse. So Frank had a lot of value to our ball club, and we really missed him when he went to Baltimore. But as you know, Baltimore didn't miss him. He let them right to the World Series.
Yeah, no.
But he took you under his wing pretty much. You were hanging out with him and Vada, the black players, and some of the other players didn't like that too much.
Well, I think what happened is, if I can explain it to you, 61 the Reds won the pennant. They lost to the Yankees. 62 Don Blassingame, as you mentioned, hit 281. So right away, 63 the Reds think they can get back to the World Series, and all of a sudden Fred Hutchinson, our manager, takes this brash young kid from Cincinnati by the name of Pete Rose and sticks him in the lineup. And not that they disliked me, I just thought that they thought they had a better chance of winning without a rookie second baseman. And you had guys like Casco, nice guy, Gene Freeze, nice guy, Gordy Coleman, Johnny Edwards, all the players on that ball club, and they really didn't accept me like you would accept somebody. They didn't disrespect me, but they didn't. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
They didn't really take me into the clan, so to speak. And every time I
no pun intended,
Frank and Vada would ask me to go to dinner on the road, and that's who I started hanging around with. And I guess the ball club didn't like that because they called me in and told me I was hanging with the black players too much. And I said, I don't give a damn what color they are. They're my teammates. I wasn't raised that way, and that was it. So nothing went beyond that.
By the way, they happen to be the two best players on the team, too.
Yeah.
Frank and Vada. Give me a break. Art Shamsky's a good friend of ours, too, Pete. He's got a book out this summer, too, about the 69 Mets. I know he was there with you in 63 as well. But I do want to talk about you being there, from going from the Frank and Vada team to the Big Red Machine, playing with guys like Joe Morgan and Johnny Bench and Tony Perez and really the guy that another father figure that you love dearly to this day, that great manager Sparky Anderson, which of course led to the epic World Series against the Red Sox in '75 and the sweep of the Yankees in '76.
Well, Sparky came there in '70, and I must tell you one thing about the Big Red Machine. Dave Bristol assembled the Big Red Machine, but Sparky developed it. I came up in '63. Tony Perez came up in '65. Helms was Rookie of the Year in '66. Johnny Bench was Rookie of the Year in '68. David Concepcion came up in '69. And then, of course, they fired Dave after the '69 season. Sparky came in, and we won the first pennant and lost to Baltimore. And then, then we lost in '72 at the World Series with Oakland. Then we lost a great series with the Mets in '73.
Yeah.
And they went to the World Series. We went home. And Oakland beat them. And then in '75, we beat the Red Sox. In '76, we beat the Yankees. So it was a good run for us. We had a lot of good players at Big Red Machine, and I'll never get in front of anybody or talk on your show or anybody else's show and tell you that the Big Red Machine was the best team ever. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I'll go to my grave saying it was the most entertaining team ever. We had white Hall of Famers, black Hall of Famers, Latino Hall of Famers, and a Hall of Fame manager. And we had Golden Glovers, we had batting champions, we had home run champions, we had RBI champions, and we had stolen base champions. We had everything you needed to be entertained at a baseball game, and that's what I will say about the Big Red Machine.
Besides yourself, Pete Rose, who would you say, Bench, Morgan, Perez, any of them, who was the greatest player on that team besides yourself?
Well, I think the guy that got the most out of what he had to work with was Joe Morgan. You know, here's a guy 5'7", back-to-back MVPs, and that's why we were so good, guys. I'll tell you why. Because in baseball, you don't get domination from second basemen and catchers. Our catcher was Johnny Bench, the greatest ever, and our second baseman was Joe Morgan, back-to-back MVPs. So perennial all-stars, perennial MVP candidates, you know, most teams don't have MVP candidates catching and playing second base. You know, your run-productive positions are first base, third base, and outfield. And that's why we were ahead of the game, because the two positions that are really hard to fill up for is catching and second base. And we had all-stars, MVP candidates at those two positions.
Great point, Pete Rose. Now, it seems to me, reading the book, Pete, you go on to Philadelphia. You're only there for about 5 years, and you were really good almost every year. I mean, 80, you won the World Series. You beat the Royals. You did lose in 7 to Baltimore in 83, but just about every year you're in the playoffs, 2 World Series. I know you give yourself credit, and deservedly so, for making Mike Schmidt the best third baseman ever. Didn't seem like you gave enough love to Philly. As I know you're a Cincinnati kid, but seemed like you enjoyed your winning days in Cincinnati much more than Philadelphia.
Well, that's my hometown. They play on Pete Rose Way. I was born 3 miles from the ballpark in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I had to figure this way, that what was the problem with the Phillies in the 70s? It was the Reds.
Right.
So if I go to Philly, I chose that. You know, I took the lowest offer as a free agent to go to Philadelphia because I liked Schmidt, I liked Kozinski, I liked Boa, I liked Maddox, I liked McBride. You know, I liked Trio. I liked those guys, and they had a good ball club. And it worked out okay for me because, you know, I had good years there, and we went to the World Series twice and the playoffs 3 times. So, you know, in those days, you didn't take the most money. Now that I sit here and talk to you guys and I think about the offers I got,
Yeah.
you know, I should have went to St. Louis. Mr. Bush offered me a Budweiser distributorship. How would I have that today?
That would have been sweet.
You know, Mr. Kaufman offered me already proven oil wells. Ted Turner offered me $1 million a year for 4 years, and he came back and said, "I'll give you $100,000 a year every year after you retire until you die."
Wow.
So, you know, I mean, but I wanted to win, and the only way I could win, the way I saw it, I couldn't help Atlanta become a good team. I didn't want to change leagues and go to the American League with Kansas City because I'd have to get familiar with every pitcher in the league because we didn't have interleague play in those days. And I didn't want to go to St. Louis because they wanted to use me to replace Lou Brock.
Right.
So Philadelphia was the place to go, and I went there and I had fun. It was a great town, still is, a great sports town. And we won a World Series. When we won a World Series in 80, it was the first time in 86 years, which is a long time.
Yep, no doubt. No.
Pete Rose, the book is Play Hungry. Again today, Barnes & Noble at 1 o'clock on 5th Avenue here in New York City, and Northville, New Jersey tonight. Books and Greetings at 6 o'clock. Pete, of course, you're the all-time leader in hits in the Major League Baseball. Back to the Big Red Machine. When you broke that record, Ty Cobb's record, what was that feeling like for you?
Well, you have to put. Here's the best way I describe it when I do talks and stuff. If you're married, which a lot of your listeners are, when you get home from work today and your wife's in the kitchen cooking, go in the kitchen and stand there for 9 minutes and clap. That's how long my standing ovation was.
Oh, my God.
9 minutes standing ovation.
Sweet.
Wow.
And there's not a listener listening to you and I talk right now that will be able to stand for 9 minutes and clap.
No. It was amazing.
Quite the tribute.
I could see it like against San Diego, Eric Schau. You had the first 2 games of that series, you didn't do much. It was a 4-game set. In that third game, you broke the record. I can see it as if it was yesterday, Pete. And look, we know the baseball accomplishments. Statistically, nobody better. You've got about 1 million records. Another one you're most proud of is 1,970 wins, which no one has come close to. You're 250 ahead of the next guy. But, unfortunately, Pete, like my story, your story has some stuff which I'm sure you'd rather we never got there. And the gambling is a thing we all talk about. And
that's it's okay. I mean, I made mistakes, and I paid for the mistakes. I've been suspended 30 years. I don't think the suspension fits the crime, but when you screw up, bad things happen to you.
Well, you say it doesn't fit the crime. I've heard you say, and I agree with you, that if in fact your friend Bart Giamatti didn't drop dead literally as soon as this thing started to break, that you really thought maybe you'd have a 1-year suspension. You would have been back in Major League Baseball a long time ago if Bart hadn't died so suddenly.
Well, he died 5 days later, and if you look at my press conference, I even said I can't, because my little girl was born 2 days before I was suspended, and I even said at the press conference, I can't wait for my little girl to turn 1 so I can apply for reinstatement.
Wow.
And of course that didn't happen because God bless Bart Giamatti. He was a smart man, a good man. I got along with Bart, to be honest with you, but he had to do what he had to do, and I have no bad things to say about Bart. When you put commissioners in situations like that, not too many good things can happen. So I wish he'd have lived. He was a very intelligent guy. I think he was president of Yale or something like that. And I used to, when he come on the road occasionally, I'd go into his room on the road and we would talk about the National League and how to make it better. And he always listened to what I had to say. So I had to say, even though he suspended me, and that was the right thing to do, that I have no ill feelings about Bart Giamatti.
You know, Pete Rose, you have an interesting take. You say the best player missing from the Baseball Hall of Fame is shoeless Joe Jackson, and I think that's very humble of you to say that. But my question to you is, at 78 years old, do you think that there's hope that something will turn around somebody and you will make the Hall of Fame?
No. And I'm good with that, okay? I know what kind of player I was. My family knows, my fans know, my teammates know. I made the Hall of Fame in Cincinnati, which, by the way, of the 30 teams, has the best Hall of Fame in all of baseball. I got a statue at the ballpark, and my number's been retired. And that's my hometown. So that's good enough for me. Would I like to go to Cooperstown? Absolutely. Every player of his or her sport should want to end up in their Hall of Fames. But I'm the reason I'm not. I'm not going to complain on your show or any other show. I'm just going to try to live a good life.
Yep.
You know, you might think I'm crazy when I say this, but I'm the best ambassador baseball has, I believe.
I agree.
I sign autographs 20 days a month, 4.5 hours a day in the malls at Vegas, and all I do is talk positive about the game of baseball to kids, to grandmas, to grandpas, to dads and moms. And that's every day. I don't know if any other player does that.
Nope.
And as you know or may not know, I believe you know, the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's been very easy to knock the game of baseball.
Yes. No, you don't do that. I know, Pete, and I have seen you at Caesar's Palace, and you know that's one of the things here. I mean, look, I know you've got like 15 or 16 items in the Hall of Fame already, all your bats, your records. So your face isn't there, but there's a lot of Pete Rose stuff in the Hall of Fame. You got your own statue, so it's kind of a little bit of hypocrisy there out of baseball. But let me ask you, if in the beginning you would have admitted right away, I know you were scared, you were a kid, it was 1979, but if you admitted right away that you did gamble, and by the way, do you think the fact that you live in Vegas now and you're probably going to bet Golden State, Toronto tonight, does that hurt you?
I'm in New York right now.
No, but I know what...
I'm not betting anything tonight. There's no more illegal gambling with Pete Rose. Okay?
That's right.
Right.
But there, any kind of gambling I do today is legal gambling, and I don't quite understand. Okay, I don't understand if I was in Vegas today and I wanted to bet on the basketball game tonight.
Right.
Go down with my own money, buy a ticket, go home. I'm 78 years old. That's why I enjoy myself. What is so bad about that? What is so bad about me enjoying the last years of my life the way I want to? I'm not hurting anybody, and it's not like if I didn't bet on the game tonight, if I was in Vegas, like I'm going to get reinstated tomorrow. I mean, do people think I'm the only baseball player in the history of baseball that will go to Vegas and make a bet? Are they pissing up a rope, or what are they doing?
Yeah,
right. That's funny.
Exactly, Pete Rose. So we talked. You just mentioned, or Sid did, baseball changing, and it's easy to criticize baseball. How has it changed from when you played till today? I mean, a lot of strikeouts, a lot of home runs.
Well, that's all you do. You strike out or you hit a home run. Everybody plays baseball today is potentially a home run hitter.
Right.
The ballparks they're playing in today, most of them, are jokes.
Yeah.
You ever been at home plate at Houston? It's a joke. Cincinnati, it's a joke.
Why do you say that?
It's a joke. Camden Yards, it's a joke. Colorado, it's a joke. The new Atlanta ballpark, they're jokes.
Yeah.
They're making these ballparks for these players to hit these home runs. And all they do is keep dropping that back of shoulder and trying to elevate, and they don't care if they strike out 200 times.
No, you're right.
All it is home runs. They don't. Half of them don't even care if they win or not.
No, you said it. They hit
as long as they get home runs, they get a big raise.
Right. They hit the 3-run home run and sit around and wait for something else to happen. All right,
I can't believe how many guys are playing a day. I watch 3 games a day.
Yeah.
I watch baseball every day. I can't believe how many guys get 2 strikes and will swing and miss and fall down with 2 strikes.
You moron!
Put the ball in play, for criminy sakes.
Right.
Get the guy from second to third.
Yeah.
Get the guy from third into home. Win the game 3-2. You don't have to win 9-8 every day.
That's right. Well, that's one of the things you said to Mike Schmidt. You said, hey, Schmitty, you got to be happy getting 3 singles and maybe not a home run every single day. And that's when Schmidt went from an elite third baseman to the best third baseman in the history of the game. And you're right, Pete. Listen, 60 seconds to go. We got to close with this. I know you did it with Francesa yesterday. You'll do it on every single show. But you cannot not do a show without talking about Joe DiMaggio's penis.
Well, when I gave him a shower in 1967 down in the jungle in Vietnam, and I got to be the only guy ever to give Joe DiMaggio a shower. I mean, seriously, and the best way to, I know he was a Yankee Clipper, and I love Joe DiMaggio. I lived with him 23 days, okay? And Yankee Clipper my ass. The best way to describe Joe DiMaggio is he was a penis with a man hanging from it.
Oh, Marilyn Monroe, baby.
Oh, my God.
Hey, Pete Rose, you're great.
Oh, that's great.
The book is Play Hungry, The Making of a Baseball Player. Again, today, Barnes & Noble, 1 o'clock on 5th Avenue. Today, in Northvale, New Jersey. Tonight, books and greetings at 6 o'clock. Pete Rose, Godspeed and good luck, and thank you for appearing on the Bernie and Sid Show.
Hey, you guys are great. Thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you. You're great, too. The great Pete Rose here on Bernie and Sid.